Story 1. During the pandemic, my girlfriend, now wife, worked at Walmart while the toilet paper hoarding emptied all the shelves. She would have elderly people call the store looking for toilet paper, and they would start to cry when she told them the store had none. That broke her heart every time. When new shipments of toilet paper arrived, she started buying one of the giant mega packs to keep in her car. The shelves would get wiped out quickly. Then, when elderly people called asking if they had toilet paper, she would tell them the store was out, but to meet her in the parking lot on her break. She would give, not sell, them a six-pack of toilet paper from the mega pack she kept in her car. It wasn't much, but hopefully, it helped them until they could find more. When I found out about this, I knew she was the one for me, although I kind of already suspected it. We had only started dating about 5 weeks before the lockdown began. Story 2. Oddly enough, folding my t-shirts. I have a unique way of folding them. One day, my girl was doing some laundry, and I noticed she was folding the t-shirts the way I do it. When I asked why, she said, "Well, I watched how you do it because I want you to have your things the way you want them." That kind of attention to detail and the willingness to help me keep my world ordered the way I like it made me think, yes, this girl is a keeper. More than 20 years later, we are still going strong. Story 3. I was behind my coworker at the cashier in a grocery store. She was obviously tired from work, paying for her items, and walked out the door where a stray cat was waiting. We are in Southeast Asia, where stray animals are unfortunately common. At work, she is very rigid and stern, not one to joke around. She went back inside, got a pouch of cat food, and fed the poor animal. I married her. Now we have 5 disabled cats that she has rescued over the years. Story 4. Early on in our dating, I felt quite sick. She appeared in my apartment the next day, bought me groceries and medicine, made me meals, and took care of me. I never asked her, I never complained. She just went and did it. We have been together for close to 20 years. Story 5. I met her online and we met up. I fell for her in a matter of hours. After a few days, I told her I wished I could just shrink her and carry her around in my pocket everywhere I go. One day, she asked to take my jacket and said she would bring it back the next day. I questioned why, and she said she wanted to wear it, so I let her take it. The following day, she brought my jacket back as promised. She told me to look in the pocket. I looked and stuck my hand in it. I pulled out a small red heart sewn to the inside of the pocket. I looked at her and smiled, feeling overwhelmed. She said she remembered what I said about wishing I could shrink her so I could carry her in my pocket everywhere I go. This way, I would have her heart with me everywhere I go. I instantly tore up. It was such a small, simple gesture, but no one has ever done something so thoughtful for me. Story 6. I had a girlfriend who would make a light clucking sound, like a chicken, when she was very happy and satisfied. It was not loud or excessive, but I could hear it. It was very endearing and let me know if I was doing a good job. Oh, and attack hugs. I love them. Story 7. A girl told me she was a germaphobe and did not want to hug me. This was significant for me because I am also a germaphobe. Story 8. She stood up for someone quietly being mistreated, showing calm, firm kindness without making it about herself. Story 9. I was somewhat delirious with a high fever when we were supposed to be on our second or third date, so we video called while I was in bed. In my fevered state, I accidentally opened up too much. Not trauma dumping, just got real vulnerable. She teared up as she listened and never mentioned it again. I miss her, but it was not meant to be. Story 10. I overheard my girlfriend bragging about me to her sister early in our relationship. She was saying things like, "He is so smart, kind, and has the cutest butt." I was playing tennis almost every day, so I was in really good shape. I have been married to her for 41 years. Story 11. We were walking on our first date, and she asked me about my hobbies. I talked about a recipe I had worked on and the logic behind it. She stopped and, with a big grin on her face, said, "I want to kiss you right now." That simple act of celebrating my interests and showing her interest in me seemed so simple, but it is very rare. I fell for her hard in that moment. Story 12. She once packed me a lunch without saying anything. just slid it into my bag before work. Something about that quiet care felt different. Story 13. When I was at the protests, I ended up standing next to a very elderly, 5 foot tall, maybe 100-pound woman. She looked slightly worried as things got agitated, but I didn't think much of it. Then some random man wandered into the crowd and started to swing a baton, hitting me hard in the elbow and yelling, "What are you going to do about it? I am 6 feet 3 inches tall and 300 pounds. And my first reaction was, I'm going to make you eat that. This tiny woman stepped in front of me as I turned to go for him, put her hand on my chest, and quietly said, "No." She stared up at me and repeated, "No, this is what he wants. The police are right there. Please." When I looked down at her, I realized she was absolutely terrified to try to physically stop me, but she was honestly doing it because she was trying to save me from being arrested. It was one of the bravest things I have seen, and I now use her as a benchmark for doing the right thing. Story 14. I still remember when I was with my ex. She was on the phone with one of her friends, and I got a second-degree burn on my hand. I yelped. She looked at me, saw the burn, and scowled for making noise. I was hurt by that cold indifference. When she got off the phone, I asked her what that was about. She changed suddenly and asked if I was okay. In that moment, I realized she wouldn't express empathy unless she thought she would look bad if she did not. It was not automatic. A lot of our relationship suddenly made sense. We broke up not long after. Story 15. It is very interesting reading the comments here and seeing that some people reply with positive things that women have done, while others share terribly awful things. For me, I immediately think about the good things a woman has done. To my brothers who have had the opposite experience, I love you. Story 16. She never said she was sorry. In 11 years, she only said sorry once, and that was in front of others when I told them how abusive she had been. A friend's wife gave me a hug when my child was in the hospital. It was not a "how are you" hug. It was an "I am going to absorb all of your stress for the next 20 seconds" hug. I still appreciate it a decade later. Story 17. My best friend's wife held an umbrella over me while I got into my wheelchair-accessible van without me asking her to during a torrential rainstorm. She is a kind lady. Story 18. We were in a trinket store and she knocked a shot glass off the bottom shelf of a display. It did not make much noise when it shattered, so it did not bring any attention. Instead of picking it up or asking someone for help, she pushed the shards under the shelf with her shoe and carried on. It was a huge turnoff. Story 19. Stood up for her coworker. I did not know her well when I saw that, but it definitely made me respect her a lot. Story 20. She was drunk and slapped me. She thought it was funny. I told her not to do it ever again, but she did next time. I haven't spoken to her since. She now posts on Instagram all the time about how her ex manipulates her and claims it is all his fault and that he is trying to turn their children against her. I think we all see the irrational behavior. Story 21. I inadvertently added 45 minutes to our trip when I forgot something important and had to turn around to go back home and grab it. When I realized and admitted my mistake to her, she calmly stated, "You suck." She did not say another word until we got to our destination, when she asked, "So are you going to make this ruin the whole day or what?" It was my birthday party. We did not last much longer. Story 22. Jumping in front of me, then saying hello and some kind words out of nowhere. Mostly, I was so deep in my problems that I could not appreciate it enough. I was like, who is this woman and what? Looking back, they were very kind. Story 23. Not a particular action, but I am amazed by the number of very put-together, high-effort women who live like slobs. Story 24. Laughed about a prank she pulled on her sister that involved her and her parents blaming the sister for something she did not do. The small, plain laughter remembering it in day-to-day life just disgusted me about her. I spent the next 4 months saving money and planning my escape. Story 25. I saw the woman I am with right now randomly pick up trash, a wrapper, and throw it away as we were on a walk. Our town is generally quite clean, so you do not see much trash around. It is such a simple thing to do, and I have often thought of doing it myself but still simply walked by. It stuck with me and has motivated me to do the same on occasions. With that simple act, she made me a better person, and I admire her for how simply she did it. Story 26. She answered a call from her nieces and nephews while we were hanging out. She kept it brief, but the way she talked to them and how they talked to her melted me. She never really talked about her family or showed her soft side at this point in our relationship. The way she smiled while talking to them on the phone was precious. I felt like I had met my future wife. Story 27. My wife randomly started making my dinner plates and serving me first. I didn't ask. She just started doing it. I still feel so honored every time she does it. Story 28. I was having a bad week at work. The weekend came and I was exhausted. She came over and cooked for me, then told me to go shower and go to bed. I thought she was going to leave. No, she was in bed and said, "Jump in." I did, and she said, "Get some sleep." I rolled on my side, and she hugged me. I knew she wouldn't let any closet monsters get me and had the best sleep of my life. Story 29. I was dating a woman who wanted to learn how to play guitar. I have played all my life and gladly started giving her lessons. I let her use one of my electric guitars because she was saving to buy her own. She stayed the night at my place once, and I went to work in the morning while she hung out. She watched videos on how to restring a guitar. She ended up restringing the electric guitar she was using by herself and did a perfect job. The guitar really did need to be restrung. Story 30. We had plans to watch my college football team at a viewing party at a large bar with over 200 people. All fans of the college football team based several states away. She woke up with the flu and looked very ill. She knew I was looking forward to it, and I told her I was going to stay home and take care of her. It was just the season opener, so I explained I was staying home to take care of her. I told her if it was a national championship or something similar, I might consider going, but she was more important. She started crying because she knew how much I was looking forward to it, and it is the one thing I am passionate about. She has no interest in football. I knew I was going to marry her that day. Story 31. My wife before wifey status. First date. I was wavering on being the guy who opens doors. I got so much flack from everyone. I was legitimately on the verge of stopping it altogether, so I did it one last time for this date. As I was walking to my door, I saw it pop open. She had reached over and opened the door for me from the inside. The first time any woman had done that in my life. It was such a small thing, but it had never happened before, and it was such a big feeling that this woman might be different. We are now in our 26th or 27th year together. Story 32. When I told her I think I have hearing damage, she told me I was too young, 33 at the time, to have hearing damage. She is not connected to my nerve endings. I am. She is no longer at my side, and the space where her voice once reached my ears is now filled with a perpetual whine. Story 33. In college, I was working outside at a venue doing nothing all day. I was basically providing security at a site that was not open. She knew I probably did not think to bring lunch, so she showed up with sandwiches from our favorite shop. Story 34. I had broken up with my ex-girlfriend of 5 years. I went to work after and was sad at the time. My coworker asked if I was okay, and I said no. I was going to head to the back of the store to clear my head. She locked the door for a few minutes, came to the back, and gave me a hug. We have been married for 15 years now. Story 35. Doing things just to make you happy and the house more beautiful without asking or expecting anything in return. Story 36. Used the sheriff's deputy to ambush me with a completely baseless order for protection to manipulate the family court system and remove me from my child's life. Story 37. A woman I work with is usually coarse, difficult, and generally not a solid coworker. I have to follow up constantly to get basic help with her assigned job function. There is a mutual colleague whose wife passed away a year or two ago. I just learned that this woman makes extra portions of many of her meals and brings a container for the widower. This definitely changed my opinion of her instantly. Story 38. She bought me an ecstasy pill. Before that, I was always the one my friends expected to pay for the party, to the point they would encourage me to write bad checks to get cash for my two friends and me to each get one. When I met her for an afternoon date, she said, "Do you want to take some ecstasy?" Before I could shamefully say I was too broke, she got the 2 pills she had gotten in anticipation of seeing me. I know it sounds classless and like a junkie reminiscing, but that date was magical. We were both 18, almost 20 years ago, and she made it happen for me. She prepared everything in a low-key way, and it really impressed me. Her desire to make a magical memory for her and me, without requiring any assistance or reciprocal expectation, was so romantic. We were married within 18 months. Unfortunately, like the ecstasy, it was a temporary, ephemeral part of my life. Story 39. During the pandemic, a new girl joined my friend's private server. I ghosted for a few days until I eventually ended up in a voice chat and fell in love with her voice, an auditory fixation. Being autistic, I asked if she could talk one-on-one with me, and I confessed to her. We had literally just met, so she said no, obviously. My friend said I went too fast and that these things happen over time. I took that as I just needed to spend more time coming on to her. I hung out as much as possible, talking to her constantly, always flirting. Looking back now, this is super creepy and scary, but I didn't know. I thought that's what you had to do. If you're asking why no one said anything, it was because she didn't say anything about it, and we actually got pretty close over our shared interests and me taking an interest in her hobbies and personal life. In my head, I was advancing a relationship, and I thought things were going well because she kept hanging out with me and even invited me to hang out multiple times. We eventually all met up in real life, but she literally avoided every guy there except for a guy we knew who had known her from before. I didn't know what was happening. I just felt rejected, so even though I enjoyed myself, I thought she hated me or something. But online, she invited me to voice chat as usual. Stuff like that kept happening. We'd be having a really good conversation, but sometimes she'd suddenly get cold all of a sudden, and I didn't know if I did anything wrong. I asked, but she said it wasn't anything, so I took her word for it when it happened, even though I was confused. Skipped to my friends telling me to back off because I was coming on too strong. I took their advice and didn't initiate conversations with her. I just waited for her to talk to me first. But I kept flirting with her. So my friend got frustrated and made a big hullabaloo, begging me to stop because I was embarrassing myself. I was pretty embarrassed because this was pretty public and I felt like this was unwarranted. He said she's not interested, and I replied that she can speak for herself. We were both heated and yelling too. She then said that she actually wasn't interested and was trying to hint that. I asked if that was obvious to everyone else, and they said yes. So I apologized and said I'd stay out of her way for 3 days and she could decide if she wanted to keep hanging out or whatever. I took time to get over it, and surprisingly, we're still friends. We hung out less, but we were still on good terms. But all of that is just preamble. I have depression. At the time, I didn't know. I thought I was just lazy. I tended to ghost for weeks at a time because I couldn't handle communicating. When I did this for a while, she actually came into my direct messages and asked what happened and if I was okay. I literally bawled. Only men could possibly understand how much of a deal it is to have someone care enough about us to check in on us. It means more than almost everything. To do this for someone creeping on her for months on end, which was probably way worse from her perspective than from what I'm telling, it's such a level of altruism that I could only hope to ever achieve. To this day, I still think of that. She will forever have a special place in my soul as someone I deeply and intensely respect. Story 40. Listening to my wife at the time talk to her newly divorced friend about how she lined up 7 different men on 7 consecutive days and was surprised that all of them were willing to have sex on the first day. My wife repeated it to me later, thinking I did not hear, but I could see the wheels turning in her head. I moved out shortly after she started causing chaos. I felt like she thought she was missing out on finding a higher value man and wanted to use the dating apps. I do not look at women the same way after that. Story 41. My wife's best friend came to visit early in our marriage. This was the second time we had met, and we did not get along the first time. Frankly, I thought she was self-centered. We took her out to dinner at a place where you buy a large meal to share among everyone at the table. When we got down to the last portion of the meal, I was still hungry but tried to be polite, so I offered it to her. She responded by saying, "Don't be silly. You're a man and you need it more than me." That simple statement shocked me and made me reconsider how I viewed her. It was the first time a woman had referred to me as a man in a respectful way. About 15 years later, I learned that my initial judgment was correct. She is a self-centered person who treated my wife disrespectfully. However, that simple statement did make me reconsider my view of her for several years. Story 42. She loves to feed me, like dish up a home-cooked meal and watch me eat, making sure all is going well with all 3 courses. This was dating. I had never been served like that, and I just knew I would always be well taken care of. Still true 6 years later. Story 43. Ex-girlfriend, once out of nowhere, he always was Mr. Politically correct, who would call people out for racism and thought offensive jokes were never funny. Got drunk and held her eyes back in a racist Asian impression for absolutely no reason at all. It was not for a joke or during a full acted impression, and was not even relevant to the conversation. She just did it while giggling. Story 44. She told my girlfriend I was a player. I guess she was not a friend but rather a deceitful enemy. Friends until one wants more, but instead of speaking her mind, she showed her true colors. Story 45. My friend would sit and drink beer with me. We laughed so much and shared our past histories. She quickly became someone I could relax with and trust. I began to see the real woman that I fell in love with. Story 46. A condom broke, and she said, "Well, it does not matter. If anything, I would get an abortion." I was in love until that very moment. Story 47. One day, she sat down on a stool at the reception desk where we work, put her feet on the ring of the stool which raised her knees slightly, then separated her legs just a bit, so I could clearly see up her skirt. She positioned herself so I couldn't miss it, and this wasn't an accident. She wasn't wearing any underwear. We were about 10 minutes into a discussion. She was always very friendly, but I guess I didn't pick up on her previous clues about how she felt. This was unmistakable. It made for an interesting summer. Story 48. Woke up before me, made my breakfast, and brought it into bed before I knew what was happening. I felt like a god being worshipped for a few moments. It may sound silly or egotistical, but 90% of what went through my head was, "Oh my God, she is more of a get-up-and-go morning person than me. I can't believe I finally found her." Story 49. In 9th grade, someone kept staring at my chest almost every day for about 2 weeks, then stopped completely. I still don't understand what it meant. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.